Good evening. My name is Ed Grandelski, Chair of the Killenly Town Council. I'm going to call this special Town Council meeting to order. The notice of the meeting, the Town Council of the Town of Killenly will hold special public budget review meetings on the proposed 2026-2027 on the following dates. The meetings will be held in the town meeting room. The meeting will be streamed live on Facebook, YouTube, and Channel 22. For the Facebook live stream, please go to www.killenlyct.gov and click on Facebook Live. For the YouTube live stream, please go to www.killenlyct.gov and click on the YouTube Live. Public comment can be made in person or submitted by 2 p.m. the day of the meeting via email at budgetcomment@killenlyct.gov. Mail to the Town of Killenly, Town Manager's Office, 172 Main Street, Killenly, CT, 06239, or put in the drop box on the side of the Town Hall. If you are submitting written comment, all public comments must include your name and address. And today is Tuesday, March 24th. Roll call. So we're saying Dave Griffiths is on.
Not yet.
Okay, and I don't know about John, if he's on, if he's tried.
I did send him the phone number per usual to his email.
So we'll see if they come on.
Yep.
Okay, and other members are present. Okay. Public comment. I'm going to read the public comment that I have. Okay, from Ivy Ross, Pickaboo Street. I'm writing to request additional funding for the Quinebaug Valley Senior Center. My mother came to live with me 3 years ago after it was found that she could not take of herself safely. I immediately found it difficult to keep her active and had many questions taking care of my then 87-year-old mother. Someone in the Killing area suggested I contact QV Senior Center. It was the answer I needed to all of my questions. They have been the #1 resource for my mother and myself during the transition of moving mom here. They offered me so many activities, which has been a turning point in my mother's recovery. She needed to socialize with people her age. As difficult as it was in the beginning due to my mom's decline in memory, it soon became part of her daily routine. The staff are very patient and understanding, which I have not seen in a long time. They did not just hand me a list of resources, but spent the time to help me navigate what was available to us. If they do not receive the adequate funding, I'm afraid of what might happen. My mother enjoys going to the senior center and spending time with the friends she has made there. She plays bunco, whatever, once a month, even though she can't remember how to play. That is how it is different than other places I have seen. They spend time with her to allow her to try as many activities as she would like. 3 people there have now been trained to help people with Medicare, which is amazing in itself. They have special dinners, which feeds a full room of people. I will be forever grateful that this is a place I was first sent to for help with my mother. I believe they have been a very large part of what my mother has not been put, of why my mother has not been put in a nursing home. Please consider funding for this much-needed resource in our community. Thank you, Ivy Ross. Dania Gratian, South Main Street, Brooklyn. The Brooklyn Senior Center needs more financial help than it is receiving. Many people come to the center for the services, Medicare, Medicaid applications, and other programs. These people are not just Brooklyn residents, they are from other towns also. Please restructure the budget to allow Brooklyn Senior Center to continue to stay open. Leo Chattel, Charlton Avenue, Dayville, Quinebaug Valley Senior Center. Please reconsider to give this program $35,000 plus to keep the program active as they have done in previous years. We support the 10-town area with providing resources information regarding Medicare, Medicaid, farmers market, miscellaneous senior programs, etc. Thank you. Now I'll open up to anyone in the room. If you wish to have public comment, please come up to the podium.
My name is Lauren Law, 3050 David Avenue. Before I present my request, I would like to express my personal thanks to all of you for your time, your energy that you put into our town. I realize that especially at this time of year, you're asked to make some very difficult decisions, and I appreciate the commitment that you've made to serve here and to do what is best for all citizens of Killingly. I'm here to advocate for increased town funding for the Quinebaug Valley Senior Center. I have recently learned that in the budget for 25-26, the town of Killingly cut their previous annual contribution to our regional senior center from $35,000 to $5,000, despite the fact that more services are provided to citizens of Killingly than to any other participating town. As I understand it, the town manager did request $35,000 last year at this time, but the town council cut that amount to $5,000. This extreme cut in funds has placed the senior center in the untenable position of having to withdraw from emergency savings for day-to-day operations, and it's only March. I appeal to the town council to accept the town manager's current proposed $35,000 for 26-27 and to please not cut this important item. The center is a nonprofit organization, provides services and programs for those age 50 plus from 10-town area. A very small annual membership fee entitles seniors to receive counseling, assistance with navigating Medicare and Medicaid, housing, heating and electric assistance, affordable prescription plans, senior and assisted living options, transportation, Social Security, and veterans issues. The center serves a nutritious lunch Monday through Friday, delivers Meals on Wheels to homebound seniors, and also offers farmers market vouchers to members. They also host many special social and fundraising events throughout the year. There are numerous popular activities from bridge to fitness, and many groups meet to discuss books, to quilt, and to knit together. The center hosts important programs for seniors, including support groups, health screenings, clinics, and protective services for the elderly, designed to enable seniors to live with dignity and respect. I cannot say enough about the staff at the senior center. I first met them while attending a support group for caregivers of loved ones with dementia, and I currently attend fitness classes 2 times a week. The expertise and support found inside those doors can be a lifeline. The friendship and fun can improve the quality of life for all who go there. Many towns offer activities for seniors through their recreation programs, but they do not offer the range of services found at Quinebaug Valley Senior Center. I urge all towns in the 10-town area to contribute an appropriate amount to this exceedingly vital organization, but I am specifically asking you to restore more responsible funding in the 26-27 budget by approving the town manager's current request for $35,000. I would like to add one more thing. We are all painfully aware of the rise in the cost of everything over the past year. I am certain that the senior center feels the pain as much as we all do. If possible, I would also like to ask that you approve supplemental funds from this year's budget to make up for the hardship caused by last year's cut. I believe that we should be paying for the services received, and that supporting the health and independence of our seniors is a justifiable investment in the overall well-being of our community. If you are age 50 plus or know someone who is, I hope you will recognize the need for the services offered by the Quinebaug Valley Senior Center and support the full funding of this budget item. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Good evening. My name is Harry Adams. I'm on the board at the Quinnebog Valley Senior Center. And I would like to request that you do put us back in your budget for the $35,000. As being on the board, I know how expensive it is to keep the center going. I know I've heard talk you're going to have a senior center in the town of Killingly here. And I hope when you start to figure out just how much it costs to do have a senior center that is a full-service senior center like we have, that you find out that the $35,000 that we're asking for is just a small amount of the cost to what it takes to operate a full-service senior center where your seniors can come and get all the services they need. Because along with having a senior center, you also have to have qualified and certified people to be working in that senior center to give the correct information to the clients as they come in. So, knowing what it costs to operate the senior center, I think the $35,000 is really a very good price to ask for it. Thank you.
I'm a Medicare counselor over there. My name's Gordon Shees. Can you hear me? I live in South Killingly, and I volunteer on Thursdays as a Medicare counselor. The reason I wanted to come up and talk is just the amount of money that we save a lot of the seniors in the Medicare savings program. So I probably counsel 100 seniors a year. 40 of those occur in the fall when we have open enrollment in Medicare, and the other 60 spread out through the year. Probably about 30% of those folks are first timers. Most of the people we are counseling are repeat. We see them like in the fall, every fall, to see how much money we can save them on our prescription drug plan. But the main thing I want to draw attention to is a Medicare savings plan. About half the people that we're meeting the first time qualify to get extra help with their Medicare and prescription drugs. Depending on income, it can range anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 a year of savings. So let's call it $4,000 on average. So of those 30 new people I meet every year, we're helping at least half of them save $4,000 a year. And that's just me, so we have 2 other counselors that are here. And once they have been entered into that program, of course, now they're saving every year. I'll give you an example of my mother. So she was living in Canton, and I was living in South Killingly, and the Canton Senior Center, it's a rich town, but they didn't have any Medicare counselors. And I didn't know any of this stuff. So for 20 years, she was qualified for the Medicare Savings Program, but didn't know it because Canton didn't have a Medicare counselor. So when she got dementia, and I had to take over her financing, I came to the Brooklyn Senior Center and met with Tammy, who was a counselor at the time, to try to educate me on Medicare, how can I help my mother, and so on and so forth. Come to find out, she had qualified for over 20 years for the Medicare Savings Program and didn't know it. And because her income was at the lowest level, she was, in today's dollars, losing about $5,000 a year. So that adds up to $100,000 over 20 years. That's just one person. So once we help people, it can add up to real dollars. And I volunteer, so it's not like I'm adding to the budget. But the light's got to be on in order for me to help people. My 2 cents.
My name is Jan Dyson, and I live on Seagrave Street in Danielson, my husband and I. And I'm imploring you to continue funding the Senior Citizen Center, and I'll tell you why. It is very much needed in this area. My husband and I are 70 plus, and like many other friends of ours or seniors, they want to stay in their homes. There's very little housing, senior housing around here. There's Maple Courts, Primrose. There's long waiting lists for those places. People want to stay in their homes, but a lot of people are told that if they have a prescription that they need to fill, they get the money somehow to fill the prescription, but then they don't get to eat. A lot of people are diabetics, and they have to eat. They're regimented to eat 3 times a day. The Senior Citizen Center, my father, when he was 86 years old, lived with us for a short time. He had Alzheimer's, and I did bring him to the Senior Center several times, and it was a big help to him. It's very important for senior citizens to have socialization. It's extremely important to their mental health. Children in this area, they are our future, but we, senior citizens, are the present right now going into the future. And if some people have to pay it forward a little bit to help us out, that's fine. There's lots of volunteers. The meals there are fantastic, the socialization. We play cards there. We go to a lot of the dinners. And it's just fun. It's a fun place to go for socialization, but you can get help, as this gentleman was just explaining. There's lots of help you can get there. And Meals on Wheels are veterans. There's lots of veterans in this town. My father was one, World War II, and my father-in-law was Korea. And it's just needed. That's all I can say. I don't have a paper. It's very much needed, and we would appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Yes, I'm a senior citizen now. Stewart Rivers and River Road, Killingly. Every town, in my opinion anyway, should be providing 3 services. One is to the children in the schools. Another one is the infrastructure in town, the roads, the bridges. And another is they should pay attention to the senior citizens and offer them something. And Killingly, I think it was a while ago, we decided that we didn't want a senior center in Killingly, that we'd go in with Brooklyn. Well, they're in with Brooklyn, but I think that it's time for Killingly to pay up its fair share. Leo, I think, can tell you that we've got, I think, 130 people from Killingly that go over there regularly. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Gonna have to go all over that again. Anyone for public comment? Anyone for public comment? Last call. Anyone else for public comment? Okay, no more. I will close the public comment portion. Now we'll proceed into the budget review. Brian, if you have any, you can.
Yeah, I think Quiet Corner is here to present their budget as you requested, and then
Okay.
the Quinebaug Valley Senior Center also as we requested. So if you want to have Quiet Corner come up now.
Sure.
All right, good evening. My name is Kevin McNeil. I'm the president and CEO of the Quiet Corner Peer Support Group.
Mike Schmee is chief of the Dable Fire Company and vice president of the Quiet Corner Peer Support Group.
So I'm just going to take a moment here for the presentation to load. I think you all have a copy of it as well. As we move through this, I tried to make this as short as possible because I know you've had some long meetings lately. So I really did keep that in mind when I was creating this. With that said, please feel free to stop me at any point if you have any questions. We'd like to keep this informal on our side as much as possible. Next slide, please. So as far as our mission, I know we've met with you before and we've shared our mission, but really when it comes down to it is we're here to protect and strengthen the mental health and well-being of our first responders and military veterans throughout the Quiet Corner, especially here in the town of Killingly. And what we do is we provide confidential peer-led trauma-informed support, education, rapid response, and stabilization services. Next slide, please. So really, when you look at the mission statement and then you look at what we do, now we've only been around since December of 2024, however, active since February of last year. And we focus on two areas. You have your acute critical events and then you have preventative. Really, when it comes to trauma in the first responder and military community, these are the areas you need to focus on the most. And as far as the acute, so think of that, that's a sudden incident, such as a crisis event. And what we use for that is crisis intervention stress management or debriefings. We use acute stress adaptive protocol, and we also have, I'm sure you're all familiar with her name is Hope. We have a therapy canine. That's how we respond to critical incidents. So we're on call 24/7, and when we receive a call, we put it out to our team, and we respond, and we provide psychological first aid initially, and then we also do follow-ups. And what we found over time is that our follow-ups, they can go on for months. But the goal is to get the first responder military veteran into some sort of long-term services. So we're more of crisis mitigation and then moving them on to ongoing therapy if needed. And then we do the preventative part. So that's where we're doing our trauma-informed yoga at the Wellness Center. We do this thing called 9D breath work, somatic breath work. And then we also do our psychoeducational courses. So we're trying to educate our first responders. We're trying to bring them up to speed on the latest things involved with wellness, holistic type wellness, and what they can do to better educate themselves about the dangers of not asking for help or not coming forward when they're struggling. Next slide, please. Let's talk about the statistics. So this is a year worth of statistics from February to February. We responded to 54 critical incidents within the region and provided psychological first aid, crisis incident stress management, and we've also conducted 86 acute stress adaptive protocols. So what ASAP is, essentially what we're doing is sitting down with that first responder, we're doing some mindful exercises to get them in a comfortable space, and then we help them process the trauma out of their amygdala into the prefrontal cortex and disperse it out, so that when that first responder recalls that event, that traumatic event or that stressor, there's no emotional attached to it. We're having huge success with it, and it's peer-led. So you don't have to go to school for many years and rack up the student loans to do this. You just really need to attend this 32-hour course, and then we do some field work, and you're off to the races from there. We've had 10 substance abuse-related incidents, including opioid, alcohol, and prescribed medication abuse. So that's alarming. That is alarming. Now think about it. When you call 911 and you have that first responder coming to help you out, could they be impaired? That's a question that we ask all the time. And from talking to first responders, what do they use for a coping mechanism but to ingest some sort of substance? Not all of them, thankfully, but the 10 that we dealt with, that's what we're getting for feedback, is that they just couldn't handle their life stressors, they couldn't handle the stress of being a first responder, and they turned to some sort of substance to cope. And this next statistic is something that's near and dear to my heart, and something that is extremely alarming to me. We've dealt with 5 suicidal ideation / attempts. That's 5 responders in our community that were struggling, that were going to take their life. So that's a big, big problem. We're already struggling with getting responders to show up and volunteer their time. Never mind the fact that we're compounding all of the stressors of being a responder, of having to answer the call for service, attend all these trainings, to keep current in the fire department so you can still stay on their roster, to deal with all the life stressors. I mean, it just compounds. And to have 5 responders come forward in the last year and say that they were going to take their life, it definitely opened our eyes to the bigger problem. Next slide, please. So we opened the Wellness Center over at 146 Warrigan Road back on January 31st, and almost immediately the first week we had 9 people through the door. 9 responders and military veterans that came for services, and we're looking for help. We are a 24/7 access agency. Now I get questioned on this a lot. Well, how can you be 24/7? We are that in that you call a number, we come out. If it's an acute stress event, we're coming out, and we're sending our team members to meet with you. We like to bring them back to the Wellness Center because it's a quiet place. It's a comforting place. It's a place to bring them where they can kind of allow their nervous system to settle a bit so that we can do what we need to do to get them in a good place. We do peer-led, that's that crisis work I mentioned in ASAP. We do that at the center. So we do a lot of our follow-ups. We initially respond out to locations, but then we bring them back to the center. And that's where the 24/7 comes into play, is we might meet with somebody at 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday because they're struggling. And then we do an ASAP with them, or we do some psychological first aid, and we work on getting them services. Then we also use it as a training center. It's not the biggest training center, I'm going to be honest with you. We're already kind of outgrowing that. I wish it was much bigger, but we're working with what we have right now. And the plan is to take this to the next level, and that's kind of what the presentation's about today. Next slide, please. So let's talk about our activity the last year. We've attended 27 community events. My calendar was extremely full this past year. I felt like I was constantly going to community events, but it's so important for us to be out there and to be talking with our community members, to be talking with our first responders and our military veterans, and to let them know that we're here, that we put a lot of emphasis on going to these events. Even though they seem like they stack on top of each other consistently, we still try to make every event when we're requested to go. There's another program called Spot the Signs, All Wounds Are Not Visible. So this program we've been doing, it's a free program where people that we've helped through our peer group are coming forward and speaking up. They have found their voice through the help that we've given them, and they talk about their lived experience. And it's a very powerful program. It's definitely, there's a trigger warning attached to it, but it's something that we're finding huge success with because we've had 190 people go through it, and there's been 10 referrals for mental health. So that's 10 peers that came to us and said, after watching this presentation, said, I need help. Can you help me? We do Saturday morning coffee and an ASAP event. We started back in February, and we also do the Saturday morning Brewed for Connections. So this is our way of opening up the door and letting folks know we're here and that there's no judgment. You can come through our door. You don't have to go through an ASAP. We don't have to talk about critical incident stuff, but this is your way to come in and meet us and talk with us and try to figure out a plan of, just in case something happens down the road. Or maybe that person's struggling, they have to develop that trust, and they have to come through the door first to develop that before they're willing to take that next step towards therapy. So we've opened our doors in that sense, and again, we're having success with it. Next slide, please. So let's talk about training. I am always trying to seek out free training. And I found this group out of Norwich. They're called CIRAC. We partnered with them. They've provided some free training for us, and they've kind of taken the lead on helping us train when it comes to suicide prevention, opioid use. So some of the things that we trained all our members in is the Question, Persuade, Refer, the QPR. It's a national program, which has actually come in handy because, like I said, we had 5 suicide-related events. Opioid overdose, so we've trained everybody in Narcan, and we've also given them kits. So anytime they go out and respond to a critical incident, or even in the Wellness Center, there's a kit within reach. We have a training coming up in April through the Department of Public Health and Connecticut OEMS, Day Kimball Hospital. We all partnered together to provide leave-behind kits for first responders. So we're having all the local fire departments come in. We're going to do the training with them for the leave-behind opioid kits, and they're going to be able to take kits back with them to their agencies so that when they respond to these sort of things in the community, they have access to it. Acute stress adaptive protocol, that's what I mentioned earlier. We have 18 members that are trained in that. Critical incident stress management, we have 5 members trained. And then para-peer counseling, so this is not therapy, but these are individuals who are trained to a higher level that have the ability to sit down with a peer and have an honest conversation and try to guide them. It's that bridge to therapy and guide them into therapy. Next slide, please. So as far as the budget proposal, so this is really what we're looking to do with this budget. We're requesting $25,000 for the 26-27 training. And the concept behind this is we want to develop our training center and take it to the next level. And what we want to do is we want to take the funding to train members of all 6 Killingly Fire Departments as well as the police department. We want to train them in a higher level awareness. So we want to train them in that CISM, that critical incident stress management. So we want to the goal is to take 2 people from each department and train them in this. And then what we also want to do is train someone within the town, so some town employee. We want to train them as well, so wherever the town would dictate, where that person needs to be. Because we believe in this program and we believe in early intervention, and I'm going to get a little further into that, but we want our folks to have that higher level of training. Right now in the state of Connecticut, there are therapists that do what they call CISM training, but it's 8 hours. The CISM course we're looking to put people through is about 48 hours roughly. Again, that's at the higher level training, and it's accredited. So it's an actual accredited science-backed program. If you look at the cost per person, it's roughly an estimated cost here, about $500 per person, and there's 2 classes. They have to take the individual and crisis course, that's the first part, and then the second part is group and crisis. Next slide, please. So here's where this is all going as far as the Wellness Center and the accreditation piece. So we are going to partner. We've already had conversations. It's already in the works. The application is in the works. But we're going to be partnering with the International Critical Incident Stress Foundation. And there's really 2 reasons why we're doing this. It's first the accreditation piece I mentioned earlier. And then the second is it's proven and backed by science. And really, there's 2 things that are important here. It reduces burnout. So the first responder world, that's a very real issue. And then it also it reduces PTSI, so post-traumatic stress injury, the symptomology. So it reduces it over time. When you combine this sort of training and the psychological first aid piece and the critical incident debriefing, when you combine this with acute stress adaptive protocol, it is an excellent model when it comes to reducing PTSD or PTSI. The science is starting to really show that, and that is why we're trying to get ahead of it as our group and bring that level of training up to where we have some of the best trained in the region. Next slide, please. So let's talk about our training center. So we want to be a national training center by the fall. That's the push. The reality of it, it's probably going to be early winter. It's going to take a little time to get this off the ground with the partnership with that previous group I mentioned. But like anything in what we do as a peer group, we like to set goals and try to achieve them. So we're looking at the fall, but the reality is it's probably going to be early winter. We're going to plan on offering the CISM training monthly. So this will also be eventually a revenue stream for us and will help us keep the doors open. And really, to do this, to make all this happen, is we have to train all our members in CISM. So we have to have them all trained. And like I said earlier, we only have a couple members trained. And then we also want to implement it where we put 2 trained members in each fire department, and then 2 in the police department and 1 town employee in play. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the impact. So this is important, and as a taxpayer in Killingly, I certainly understand this, and I'm always thinking this as a group. How can we bring people into our community? And really, you got to look at the economic and commerce impact of doing something like creating this training center. And it's going to increase the local economy activity. So you're going to have people coming to our town, and you already have people that are coming from out of town to our town for services at the Peer Center. There's already people coming from all over. And to put in perspective, we actually had somebody come down from New Hampshire for services. So we're getting out there. We're getting known. Killingly is getting known as a town that supports peer-led support. It's going to generate reoccurring commerce because we're going to be holding these classes, because we're going to have folks coming to the Peer Center. It's going to support our local businesses. It's going to position the community as a regional training destination. So we're already on the map, and it's going to encourage off-season economic stability. So I know we're not going to be bringing millions. I wish I could bring millions to this town, but we're going to be bringing something to the table. Okay, for the $25,000 investment, we're going to do something to bring money back into the community. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the impact of our community. So mental health and PTSD preventative, it's when it comes to early psychological intervention, it does reduce, like I said earlier, it does reduce the long-term trauma exposure. It's backed by science. This isn't something I'm just making up. I mean, there's studies out there, there's multiple studies, especially when it comes to CISM and the use of CISM. But it also promotes early recognition of stress injuries. So just imagine having those trained observers within the agencies, how now they can refer these folks quicker over to us before that individual finds the courage to come forward. You know, those people can now have that difficult conversation, maybe after a bad call or something, and then now they can send them over to us quicker than waiting a week or 2 weeks, or before we're notified to go out and help out. I'm sorry. Peer-based support models, so it does increase help-seeking behavior. So having these, like I said, these trained individuals will help with that. It's a structured post-incident intervention, so everything we do is structured. So we're not just going off the cuff. We use a structured approach to every sort of critical incident. And then it normalizes the psychological response to trauma. So I call that the human element. It makes everybody know that they're human, okay? Sometimes you need training to fully understand that notion. Next slide, please. So let's talk about CISM and operational readiness. So we've seen in the town of Killingly, and I can say this for certain because I've been a firefighter for a long time, Mike's been a firefighter for a long time, we've seen the decline in volunteerism in our community. What's alarming the last few years and what I've noticed is that we're getting a lot of dropped calls. And what a dropped call is where there's no responder that goes. There's no first responder. So the rescue truck does not get out, the fire truck does not get out. There's also low staffing. We've had incidents within our town where 2 people on a fire truck go to a structure fire. How dangerous is that? One person goes to a structure fire and drives the truck to the structure fire. That's a dangerous, dangerous concept. And what is that's going to happen is it's one of those things that if you think of the Swiss cheese, when all the holes line up on the Swiss cheese, that's coming for us in our community. At some point, all the holes are going to line up and bad stuff's going to happen. We're going to have a serious injury. We're going to have a loss of life. Whether it's a firefighter or a community member, that's going to happen. So that's something that keeps me up at night as a peer support specialist and thinking about what can we do as a peer group to help with operational readiness. And it comes back to that CISM model. It comes back to getting in there with early intervention, the psychoeducational piece. It comes back to all of that. And not only that, it builds trust in our community. So if you have better responders that are mentally sound going to these calls, handling these calls better, you're getting better service as a community. Next slide, please. So let's talk about this here. And this is something, again, that keeps me up at night and that I think about often. When you look at the Department of Justice study in October 1, it was released, of 2025, and you look at the cost of what it costs a town, a municipality, an agency for a PTSD claim. So someone puts a claim in as a firefighter. You're looking at about $75,000 to $500,000. Then you look at a serious injury disability. I mean, $500,000 over $2 million, and then a line of duty death, $1.5 million to $4 million. So those are some big numbers. So the average lump sum death or disability benefit is about, let's say, about $450,000 or so. When you look at the cost of CISM and putting CISM trained individuals in agencies and having these people watch over their brothers and sisters, and how much money that's going to save the agency, the town, in litigation down the road when they're catching these sort of burnouts or some sort of risky behavior or something that's going on within that agency and that individual. Just think about the lives that can be saved and the potential cost that it can save. And I hate to put this into numbers, but that's the reality of the world we live in. Next slide, please. Now, going off some loose numbers that I did some research on, this is really where it hit it home for me. And when you compare this to the $450,000 price tag, and I don't want to put a price tag on a life, but when you think about that notion, and you look at the breakdown, you know, and my numbers may be skewed a bit, but I tried to find the honest numbers that I could find to break this down for you. You look at about 7,200 households in Killingly, and about 347 per year would, that dollar amount would be for the 25K, and then roughly 0.29 per month. So that's really less than 1 cent a day to add this extra layer of protection to our first responders and our military veterans. So roughly, and I know the price of coffee keeps going up, but roughly about $3.50 a year, or roughly a cup of coffee, could potentially save somebody if you invest in this training center and in the future of our first responders and military veterans. Next slide, please. Thank you for allowing us to present, and we're willing to take whatever questions you have.
My first question is, which other towns have you approached for funding?
So with this endeavor, oh, sorry, Mike, was that?
I'm off.
Oh, it's you. All right. I can talk back. I got too close, I think. Okay. So as far as the other towns, we approached 2 other towns. What we did is we looked at operating in Killingly. We're about, I believe it's 41 calls for service just in Killingly. And we approached Putnam and we approached Brooklyn for lower amounts. Have not heard back from Putnam. Brooklyn, we have a scheduled meeting coming up in about 2 weeks where we're going to present. But those 2 towns weren't that high when compared to Killingly.
Okay. My next question, I couldn't find any financial information because you just started in actually February. So how many donations have you received, and what fundraisers have you done to try to get money for your endeavor?
So we're always trying to actively get donations. We're finding that as folks, their wallets get tighter, it's harder to get donations. I can get you an official number. I don't want to say something that's incorrect, but we've had a few fundraising events. I wish we made enough to fund this project, but it's definitely not anywhere near that. And a lot of times what we're hearing is I would like to donate, but I just don't have the funds. I need to put food on my table. So it's hard for folks to open their wallets. We did look at some corporate donations, some bank donations and stuff, but it's hard to get that funding.
So I'm not sure if I have the amount correct. I believe Killingly donate all of the opioid settlement funds was about $169,000, and so far you've received $90,000 of that money. So what are the plans for the rest of that opioid settlement funds?
So the plan is to stay in line with what we proposed to the budget for that. So that includes the program director, the salary of that, the part-time program director. There is some funds for operating costs. Right now, that's to keep the center operational. There was some training funds in there, and if I remember correctly, it was about $14,000. But the ASAP training, these other, the SISM training, it's expensive. It adds up very quickly. ASAP is definitely not cheap to train people in.
So the town has donated quite a lot of money to this organization already?
So is the opioid settlement, the state opioid settlement money, so that is correct. And that has been tracked. And there's a quarterly letter that's sent to the finance department and the town manager to notify them what those expenses are. So we track each expense and provide documentation for it.
And none of these trainings can additionally be covered because we do have additional opioid settlement money that comes in every year. I don't know how much, you're not sure, yeah, I don't. because as you said that, people don't want to donate, so, because they don't have the money, so going and knocking doors, people are very concerned with their taxes and every penny that affects them.
Of course, and after listening earlier about the senior center, I certainly understand and I'm sympathetic towards that. And as a taxpayer, I definitely don't want my taxes to go up. I don't, so I get it. The thing is, we're coming to you because what we see is scary. What we see is scary, and I wish I could, take you behind every closed door of what we deal with and what we hear from our responders and military veterans. I wish I could. There's a confidential, agreement between us that we're not allowed to talk about it. I can only share some highlights of what we deal with, but we have a lot of struggling folks in this community, and there's not a lot of services for our first responders. There's hardly anything in our area, so we're kind of bridging that gap right now. And because we're starting out, it's not an easy bridge to gap. Because it's quite expensive. And originally, where Mike and I were just talking about this on the ride over, originally we were going to save on the rent costs, on the operational costs, because we had a different location selected, but unfortunately it didn't work out, and we weren't able to build there. And as a result of that, now we have to spend more operational money on the new place, and that's an expense that we have to incur every month. But we're willing to do that because at the end of the day, we are saving lives, and those 5 lives are a perfect example of that, and you can't really put a number on those lives.
Well, thank you for the presentation. I like numbers. I like the way that you show, I use that 7,000 household number a lot when I'm looking at a number of what it is and what's the impact per person. And you laid it out very eloquently. You're trying to build a network here that's bigger than just Killingly, and at that amount, what you're doing, the Swiss cheese kind of got me a little bit. These are things, and it's tough for all of us. No one wants their taxes to go up at all, but I honestly just look at reality. If I think when I'm 65 in 8 years I'm going to pay the same for taxes, I think I'm sadly mistaken. I just don't think that that's reality. I doubt that it's going down, and I look at numbers like this of a cup of coffee. And I get that we've given the settlement money, but again, that was granted to us, so I don't look at that as an expense to the taxpayers at all. It was given to us, and if we can't pay it forward with something like this, I don't know what we're doing. So, just my 2 cents.
I mean, like, if you think about it, I think last year I said to take a leap of faith in us, and I think we presented very well that you took the leap of faith and you got 5 people still alive, and plus how many of the others that might have been heading in that direction that we deterred out of that. It's very important that we take care of people's mental health, especially our first responders, our veterans. We see the conflict that's going on again. We're going to be getting more of them coming back to this area. We're a heavy veteran area, as we all know. So this investment, you're going to see it paid forward. You really are going to see it paid forward and making a difference in our community, our first responder and veterans. That's our commitment. That's our commitment 24/7. I've had veterans standing in front of me saying, well, the VA closes at 4. We don't close at 4. We'll see you on Sunday. We'll see you at midnight. We don't care. We're coming out. We're going to make a difference in this area. And we need the support of this town to help us make that difference. And I just say we keep moving forward, keep working together, and let's get this done, and let's help each other out.
I'm sorry, if I could just add one thing to what Mike said. One of the things is somebody running the operation and trying to figure things out is burnout among our own members. It's a very real issue because we are 24/7 and we're all passionate. We want to answer the calls. So not having the properly trained individuals within our mix that we can pull from and say you're on call this week, we don't have that quite yet. So this would allow us to have better coverage so we can answer those calls.
As far as the program's CISM program, as it gains traction and you use scientifically, it seems like it's grown and it's found its way to be very helpful. Is there any? Do you guys have any advocacy at the federal level for this type of training to become like a national program? I mean, when you say someone's coming from New Hampshire, it is kind of disappointing to think that we know this is happening, but again, we we say we can't help, but at some point, someone has to help.
So the CISM is international, so they use that all over the world. And it's between disaster relief and then right up until, you know, first responder type interactions. The acute stress adaptive protocol, that's a newer protocol, so the ASAP, that has only been around for a few years. They are doing a study right now that once that's published, I see that taking off. But we were one of the first peer groups in Connecticut to bring it into Connecticut, to start using it, and we reported back almost immediately how powerful this was and how quickly this helped resolve these emotional issues with folks. So I think the science is going to back that as well. It seems like it's trending that way. They're doing a study, like I said. But at the end of the day, you know, with Mike and I, we're trying to give back to our community. We're trying to help those who are struggling. We've both struggled ourselves and felt alone, and there's nothing worse than not having anybody to call when you are just at an absolute low and you feel like nobody has your back. And that's, we tell people all the time, we have your back. I mean, Mike and I worked out of the trunk of our car for you know, a while. I mean, toting around a puppy, just trying to help people out. And we didn't think we would be at this point this quickly, but we're just following our passion, and you know, that's why we're here. And you know, at the end of the day, we're going to do this because we care about people and we want to help them. So, and we really want to bring the town along for the ride, because we feel like the taxpayers in this town are going to benefit from the work we're doing.
So what has come, I don't know if you watched last night in KB, Steve Varga was talking about how KB's ROSC percentages compared to national on cardiac arrests. You know, nationally it's 10%, but you know, we've got a 28%, which is unheard of. But so when I'm thinking of that, and I'm listening to what you're presenting and what your numbers are looking like already in a year, I think, you know, I think you're right. I think what you're doing, what we're doing, we must be doing something right in order to, and I think what you're offering is going to be a support so that we can keep making strides and maybe setting up the standards for everybody else to follow, you know, Killingly leading the way. Because, you know, let's face facts. I love this town. I've lived here my entire life, and it's a great area. And so I think, you know, everybody just assumes that you dial 911, somebody's going to show up. You know, I grew up in that household with the firefighter that got up in the middle of the night, ran down the hallway, jumped in his truck, and got going. So, you know, I know that there's times now that, you know, 911 dials, and that's not the same. You know, somebody somewhere has got to get up in the middle of the night and answer that call. So just assuming that's going to happen is not, you know what the phrase, you know, when we assume, you know what it does. So I want to thank you, and I really, this was a very good presentation.
I have another financial question. So you've relied heavily on the opioid funds. So what are you going to do in the future when those funds run out?
So there's a lot that keeps me up at night. That is something that we are trying to find corporate funding. We also are trying to loop in with the veteran services from the state level. We have met with pretty much anybody that will meet with us to try to figure out future funding. But it's just people are struggling, and some organizations are struggling, but we are hoping to lean on some of the corporations throughout the Quiet Corner, the ones that are willing to donate and work with us. We're hoping that we can also collaborate with them to find some long-term stability. We have some other ideas of contracting with agencies and potentially doing it that way. But the concern is right now, a lot of these fire districts, they don't have a lot of money. There's a lot of focus on cancer right now and cancer reduction. So it's extremely costly in buying just new gear and Prime event type things. So we don't want to put that burden on the agencies because they're already burdened. And so we are trying to look at it from every which angle we could possibly think of. We're looking at partnering with other state agencies, local hospitals. I mean, we're exploring every possible angle we can think of. It's just we're not there yet, but we're hoping to be.
Not a problem. We appreciate you coming by. I think we need this to discuss it. We need to get you exposed, so that's what this is.
And thank you for the opportunity. We do appreciate it, and we're always happy to share what we're doing. And please call upon us anytime if you ever need any information from us, because we're completely transparent with all this. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any other presentations?
Yeah, there's a presentation scheduled from Quinnebog Senior Center.
Okay.
So I'd like to invite Sophie to come up now.
Bush. Easy. Hi, everybody. I appreciate you taking some time out to listen to us and give us some consideration, I hope. So if you'll indulge me, I've prepared, I'll try to wrap this up quickly. The Quinnebog Valley Senior Center serves over 550 seniors from your community or from our communities every year. These individuals rely on us not just for social connections, but essential services, navigating Medicare, Medicaid, accessing food, heat assistance, getting to critical medical appointments. For many of these people, we are the place they turn to in real need. After the loss of a spouse during a housing crisis, in need of a cooked meal, or when they simply don't know where else to go, they call us. At the same time, we provide something just as important but often overlooked, and that's a place to belong. Every day, seniors gather for meals, activities, and support that reduce the isolation and improves their overall health and well-being. Today, we are here because the demand for these services continue to grow, but our current funding doesn't fully support the level of that care that we are already providing to our communities and to our seniors. We're asking for your partnership along with the other towns that we serve. We do serve 10 towns. We have 4 towns that do not support us. So you do support us, but that obviously that level changed drastically last year. At this point in time, these vital resources remain available, but sustainable and how long we can continue, that's another thing. So with that said, I think everybody has a little handout there. And I've done like just a quick synopsis of what you see there. And, as I said, we have 50 plus age seniors from 10 primary towns in our communities, our surrounding communities. We support seniors maintaining independence, dignity, and quality of life. And part of that is the benefits counseling that one of our people talked about, the Medicare, how important that was to his mother. We also, Medicaid can be quite daunting when you come to a point where your spouse is going into a nursing home and you're trying to figure out, how do we pay for this? Am I going to lose my house? Those types of conversations. So we deal with that. SNAP, housing, assistance with heating, utilities. We try to, I think all of you know that transportation is a very difficult situation in our neck of the woods. So we have a lot of people that call for rides to doctor's appointments, things like that. We have volunteers, a few. That's gone down since COVID. And now with gas, I'm not sure, I haven't called anybody lately, but that's a problem. I mean, sometimes staff bring people to appointments. One-day surgery, one of the staff brought one of the residents or one of our seniors to an appointment, a one-day surgery, and waited and brought them home. We've helped people through major transitions, loss of a spouse, housing changes. We support veterans getting benefits, getting their reimbursements. We also, I act as the municipal agent to the elderly, which does entail the protective services, the referrals, and advocacy. And these things are all important because many times seniors, especially our older seniors that may not be computer, they don't have computers. They come in to see us to take care of these things. And we do it for them. And this is the place they turn to. So as one of our other speakers spoke, beyond the critical services, we have daily and monthly offerings. We do our weekly, 5 days a week, we have a daily cafe that people can come in and have lunch and socialize and be together. We provide monthly food boxes for income eligible folks in our communities. Our newsletter goes out to 600 plus individuals. Our activities, we have exercise, painting, quilting, knitting, book clubs. I do a lot of health education with, we've got fall prevention coming up soon, hearing screenings. In the fall, we do vaccine clinics for seasonal and COVID vaccines. Farmers Market will start very soon. We'll be distributing those cards to the communities, all of our communities. All of these things do reduce the isolation that our seniors, experience, which is going to make their health outcomes be much better. And it also keeps a tie to the community for them. We have seniors that, actually it's kind of funny, the other day, somebody came in and said, I came in because I just have to talk to somebody. And it was just a funny thing. But that's exactly what it is. At this point, we have 568 members. And 551 of those are from 10 of our primary towns. The rest of those we have some that come in from Tolland or Willington. I think we've got somebody in Massachusetts. So there's like a little pocket. We have 2 paid staff, part-time. We work 9 to 2, 5 days a week. And we have the additional trained counselor that just spoke a little bit ago, who helps us out tremendously during open enrollment, because we have all the towns are coming at that point, because you've got that window to make your changes or to review to see if you need to make changes. So it's an important time. And I will say that we do have limited staff, and we work 9 to 2, but we work a few more hours than that, because there's a lot of things we do that are outside of the 9 to 2 frame. You know, I go to the communities, I go to your community, I go to Putnam, I go to Pomfret, and I do their farmers market at their housing authority, or wherever they're. I've recently had a call to go visit a senior in a hoarding situation that they thought was a health issue as well. So now I'm working with the health department and senior resources to make sure that individual is safe in his home and figure out what services we can provide to him that, you know, in a compassionate way, of course, and respectful, because that's a whole different thing too. So there's things like that that we do that are outside of the box, if you will. And I think you see our operating budget, what we're talking about here, which is, you know, our deficit has certainly, our shortfall, I should say, has been compounded with the 30,000 that we lost last year. That may not seem like a lot in the big picture, but for us it is. We've tried to do some things. When you start talking fundraising, things like that, we have, you know, we're doing quite a few things in that respect. We do have some of our funding that comes from some special donations that are monthly. We try to do some grants that we can find. But other than that, it's smaller things that just doesn't hit that big nut of $53,000. We do monthly raffle baskets at our dinners. Instead of just raffling it at a dinner, we do it for the whole month because that brings in a little more revenue. We have our Grandma's Attic that people donate. Maybe they're closing up mom's house or whatever, and they bring the stuff in, and we sell it. That brings in some revenue to us. We may have a special raffle where somebody donates a grill, so we have that out for a couple months. So it's free and clear, the grill, so whatever we make on that, it's a little something. We, last year for the first time, did the Pluck a Duck in Putnam, which was very good for us. Our biggest fundraiser probably is our Christmas Bazaar, which brings in some. But as I said, all of this does not hit our $53,000, almost $54,000. So that is our conundrum here. And we continue to offer all the support that we always did to all the towns, including Killingly. And, you know, frankly, as an aside, I mean, you were supporting us at $35,000. At that time, I was your municipal agent, included in that $35,000. And we were doing everything regarding your seniors. And then we're still doing all the same thing at $5,000. But unfortunately, I'm not sure how long that we can sustain it. We just can't. When it's not just your town, we need to bring in the other towns to pay their fair share as well. So I don't want anyone at this table around here to think that we're just pointing it at you guys. We're here with you guys right now, but that is something that letters went out to all of our towns, including the towns that do not support us. I did make sure that they are aware that although they don't support us, that their seniors do avail themselves of our services. So going forward, you know, we had one town that did come through and send us, and they're kind of paying their percent here of what we've suggested. So our request, as I said, is from all of the towns to pay a share. And without getting this, you know, these fundings squared away, we are at a serious crossroads here, very serious. One of our speakers just mentioned how much money has been moved from savings to pay bills since January. So, you know, these services are important, they sure are, but as time goes by, I don't know if, you know, some of these services could be reduced. I mean, they may lose access to, you know, services they come in to see us that they need us to help them with. You know, whether it be the fact that they come in for a meal every day, or somebody in the community that needs Meals on Wheels. Meals on Wheels come out of our center. You know, I don't know how to emphasize how important this is. But we are asking you to consider a end-of-year contribution because of the shortfall, and reinstate the funding that we have had for many years with our partnership with Killingly. And I've also included another sheet with, you know, our towns, how many members, and the types of services and things that we're doing at the center. This is a snapshot of probably maybe a 7-8 month period last year, okay? So, you know, it gives you an idea of what we're doing. And just to give you a little more, you know, I've got a couple of examples, and these are not necessarily in your town. Some are just services that we've provided. Right now, we are working with a woman. We got a call from Day Kimball Hospital asking for assistance for a senior that had recently had a stroke. Her speech, her motor functions, things have been affected. And they were wondering if we could help her out maybe with speech. They'd set us all up with what we needed. Do we have somebody that would, you know, like work with her? Well, we do have somebody working with her for maybe a year and a half now. Once, twice a week, they get together, and we provide a space. She's more verbal. She's doing much better. She's got a road to go, but we said, sure, we'll figure it out. We had a veteran that had come out of rehab. I have a daughter that contacts me regularly from Florida. And she says, Dad's coming home on Thursday, but there's nothing in the house. What can you do? So we found some meals for him. The Meals on Wheels that are normally delivered, that were going to be delivered starting Tuesday, went to his house, delivered them, and visited with him, made sure that, is there anything else he needs? Okay? We did have a client at one of the housing authorities in an apartment that was mold. Now, this happened to be in Killingly, and they wanted to put her in a new unit, but they couldn't move her furniture because the mold would go with her. So we contacted a furniture store, got new bedding for her, mattress, box spring, some living room furniture, and she was able to move. That's just a little sampling of some of the stuff that we do there that they don't fit in the box of Medicaid per se or Medicare. These are things outside the norms that we do. And, you know, I think our role is very important. And with this shortfall, gosh, it scares me where we may be if we're not there. Many of the towns are, you know, you have senior centers, but most of these towns are still referring everybody to us for the services because everybody's under the guise of the recreation departments. So they're also their funding comes from their towns, whereas, you know, we don't have that. I will say, even though we are physically in Brooklyn. We're not part of Brooklyn, but the town of Brooklyn is so supportive of us. They do fund $35,000, and the space we're in, they provide that for us. That's immeasurable, how much money that would be. I mean, I don't know. We definitely wouldn't be in business right now if we were paying for that as well. I mean, our shortfall would be even crazier. So, you know, as I said, I wanted to give you just a brief, you know, some of the scenarios that we see that are not the usual things that you think of. These things outside of things, like a hoarding situation, some of these things I've mentioned. These are the kinds of things we do every day. Municipal agent, I mean, I found myself there on a Friday night at 6:30 getting in touch with Protective Services, you know, because of a senior's in danger. These are things that are really important, and I hope that when you're considering all this, that, you know, that you will keep the seniors foremost in your mind. Because there's so many, and definitely in our areas, I think we all know that, that really do need the services. And I additionally would say that we're small over there. There's only 2 of us, part-time, full-time. We call it full-time, but it's 9 to 2. But we are passionate about what we do over there. And it is our wish to continue doing this work. And I don't know, without the partnerships of the towns, if we can continue. And I think that's something I know all the towns are constrained by budgets. And it's difficult making the choices. But these are seniors. They've paid their dues. They've worked their whole life and paid taxes and whatever, and I hope that we will continue to be there for them. I think that's the most important thing in all of this, and I hope that you'll all consider that. And lastly, I'd like to invite all of you to our senior center. There's an open invitation to come and see what we do there, maybe see some of our seniors. If you have any questions, I'm happy to respond to those. I didn't do a lot with the budget. I think most of this you guys probably want to kind of digest, if you will. We thought we laid it out kind of simply, pretty easy to follow. And, you know, and I just added my conversation over here. I think you can see with the current budget funding how much is unfunded. There's a pretty big piece there. And yeah, we are at a big crossroads here. And we implore you to consider reinstating that funding to us. But thank you all for listening, and if you have any questions, if I can answer them, I'm happy to do that.
Any comments?
You answered all my questions.
The bottom line really is.
Who's talking?
That there's so many senior centers, but they're not senior centers. They're recreation centers. Ours is different. We do all the fun. We do all these other from Medicare to Medicaid and things like that. If we do close within the next year and a half, or even send people away, these people are gonna have no place to go. Especially like right now, if Kinley's even thinking about doing a senior center, it's going to be a rec center. You don't have that person. You may say you have that person, but that person's going to send them to Brooklyn. And it's just a matter of time before we're going to, with the utilities and all those things, we're going to be forced to close. We're already dipping into our savings, which we've never touched before. I'm all new to this because I'm not that old. But it's they've never dipped into their savings, and now they're dipping into the savings like it's disappearing like this. And I'm with Sophie and everybody else behind me. We need help. And I know a lot of you in here. So, thank you.
Well, I guess we don't have any other questions. I appreciate you coming forward. It's a tough go. That's,
you.
There's no other presentations planned. I don't know if the council wants to go over any other components of the municipal budget. There was a request to have the balance of the reserve funds distributed, which Jen handed out last night. We can go over that if you like before we adjourn. Also, we have the 911 organization scheduled for tomorrow night. That's
Okay.
the only thing scheduled for tomorrow night because they couldn't come in either of these other 2 nights. So I don't know if you want to continue to have that meeting just for that, or if there's other things you want to schedule to go over.
Well, if there's anybody else reaching out, I think if they reach out to you, we could have them tomorrow night. It should be short notice, but nobody's
No one
knocking on
else
your
has
door
reached,
to.
yeah, no one else has reached out. These groups that have come in were the ones that counselors requested that they come in.
Okay, no.
So that's why they were here.
Ed, I got a quick question about
Sure.
QVEC. Is the amount they ask for the emergency, the 911 center, is it a fee or is it a request that can be, for lack of a better term,
Thank you.
bartered?
It's a fee that's tied to our formula and an agreement. So it's kind of like a COG type fee.
All right, so
more than-
unlike the folks we heard from today and
That's correct.
yesterday, where we can choose to raise or lower
Right.
the amount given, this is more like a contractual service in that we're tied to it. Just something to think about before we have them come tomorrow. And we're not deciding whether or not we're increasing or lowering that amount of money. It is the amount of money we're giving them.
But then we can discuss, what are we getting for that? If we are getting,
Well, every time you call 911, that's what you're getting. Just,
It's pretty much been flat. There haven't been any increases that I saw for quite a while. And I think when I looked it up, they said that Killingly's, the 911 service is one of the least expensive in the area for the services. They haven't gone up for a while. Although he hasn't given any financial information last year, it was just a letter.
just a thought for tomorrow night.
Well, I know, Ed, didn't you have a question about how dispatch?
well,
I
I
mean,
think
that-
it's more of their training type of thing, that type of thing, where, like these other people, they're trying to stay up to date and whatnot. Are we up to date, or are they, given my specific scenarios that I witnessed or was part of, it left a lot to be desired. That, again, listening to KB, they need the 911 dispatch to work. So it's hard to articulate it all, but I mean, it's been, my interaction with the 911 has not been that great. I've done better
Well,
direct.
I think there's always that opportunity for public information too. If anybody's watching, they might be able to understand better on what, maybe they just need to understand better on how to, when they call 911, how to give the information that they need.
And you don't know if they plugged it into a GPS and the GPS didn't work, or,
Well, we can
sometimes
have
the
we can
court-
have a presentation by them. I mean, my perception and what the reality is, maybe within the contract itself is a little bit different than what we think we're supposed to get. That's what I was looking at possibly. I mean, I'm open for suggestions. That's how to proceed.
I just hate to see him come out for a budget meeting where we're trying to figure out who to include in a budget that is already really high this year when it comes to a mill rate increase, you know, from the proposed budget that's now being digested by the town council. If we ever want them to come out to discuss operational issues, I think that's a great idea. But
That wouldn't be the time tomorrow.
I don't think it's the time to discuss operational issues when, you know, I get it. They sent us a letter and it's 3 lines, but that's because they can. Everyone else here, they got to give us a reason to ask for that money. They're not asking. They're telling us what our fee is. It's like asking a lawyer to come out and say, here's why here's why we justify 80 grand a year during the budget process. That's just my thought.
Well, again, that may be the time to discuss it during the budget process.
Discuss operational issues. It's not like we're gonna be able to dangle the power of the purse in front of them saying you're not getting your money this year because you're not doing a good job. They're going to get their money regardless. If we wanna have a meeting, maybe a special town council meeting or something, saying, how does this all work, an informational meeting, that's fine, but I don't know if it's appropriate for budget negotiations.
How do others feel in that regard?
I agree with Jonathan.
I mean, this is on, it's not a mandate, but if it's contractual, then I think it's kind of point of order almost that we're talking about something that's not part of the meeting. The meeting's about the budget, but we're talking about procedure and training, so that's probably not something we would talk about tomorrow. I think, I guess I can see the point that it's.
So on this human subsidies list, what exact, and now I know there's certain ones on here that we have to fund. I think it's state, some of it is state, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's a mix here. Is NDDH in here? Yeah, so NDDH, we have an agreement with. NECOG, we have an agreement with. The 911, obviously, that we're talking about, we have an agreement with. We have an agreement for the paramedic intercept service, which is also through NECOG, the transit district. And then I think most of the others that I see are justification-based requests. Oh, the access cold winter storage, not storage, shelter, excuse me, the 5,000.
Great word, justification-based request. That's the words I was looking for earlier.
So the ambulance.
You can take it, I just made it up.
Now, the
Sorry.
ambulance is also kind of like a contractual as well?
It is contractual.
What about the United Services and all the other ones? The Women's Center? Adult education, I thought that was,
The United Services, I think the only one that's mandatory is the youth services.
Yeah, the Youth Services Bureau were required to have that. Same thing with the adult education. The adult education is basically, that's matching what we're getting from state assistance for that. It's like a pass-through. So we're getting $58,562 in revenue, and so the offsetting expense for that is the $58,562. It's a match for match.
So that went down?
It did.
It went
per
down?
the state.
Really, almost in half?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
now the elderly nutrition, is that TVCCA? That's Meals on Wheels?
That's Meals on Wheels. So I did look up Child and Family Agency of Southeastern Connecticut it's a new ask for $10,000. They are based in New London. It says they have overlapping services. It gave some data about their visits to mental health clinics or visiting schools. We have CHR, so I'm guessing their data is basically the New London area. And also SERAC, Southeastern Regional Action Council. That's another new ask. They're based out of Norwich.
And when I again looking at by numbers, I go by 7,000 homes. And, you know, it is 6.2. I mean, this is obviously one small section of the budget, and there's going to be some tough numbers, but this reflects this 47,000 reflects to each citizen 18 cents a day. So it's I'm certain there's things that we can go back and forth on, but it's not. None of this is to me it's not. We're saving people a quarter a day.
No, you have to look at everything, each amount separately.
No, I do, but again, a number's a number. You're taking out $10,000 on a 1.8 mil. You're not saving anybody. Yeah, I get it. If you want to say nickels and dimes, you can, but that's not how we're paying our bills.
So all the numbers add up. When you have somebody from New London coming to ask for $10,000 from
I agree.
Killingly,
Right.
it's a new ask.
Yeah, I agree. So we don't have to agree on what it does. It has no financial. The impact is tiny, and I guess they're saying that we use the services. If they don't, then maybe that's not warranted.
Well, cuts have to be made whether you can add up all the different cups of coffee and they're gonna add up to a big amount.
Yeah, it's this. Yeah, I get it. I think what happens is there's things that we're forced to pay that we don't have a choice on, and that's this. We have a choice. It's I'm sure we'll have to make cuts, but we're all in the same constraint because of the things we can't control. You can't control, your health insurance. You can't control your electric bill. You don't have control over those things. So it's going to be a tough road.
Mr. Chairman, what's the plan tomorrow? For tomorrow night?
Well, the only thing that's planned is the 911 emergency dispatch for a presentation. Other than that, we can discuss, if you want to discuss specific line items.
When's the school board coming in? Next Wednesday?
Tuesday.
Tuesday? And then do we have deliberation after that?
Well, then we go to the public hearing. It's after the public hearing that we have.
Then we deliberate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think you could also deliberate some before the public hearing if you have a consensus that it's not something you want to do. That seems reasonable.
I mean, we can
to me.
deliberate anytime. You
Yeah.
can start looking
Yeah, I'm
at
just,
a little more.
I think it's premature to really have a hardcore budget discussion until the Board of Ed presents their budget, since it's such a large component.
That's a huge, right.
And I'm just wondering if tomorrow night's necessary, if there's no other questions. If there's something we want to do, absolutely. But if we just come and hear that Chuck needs X amount of money, and then we button up shop, I'm not sure if we really need to be here tomorrow night.
I agree. Their ask is even less than it was last year, not by a lot, but a small amount. It was less, and we're mandated to pay it, so I'm not sure if there's a benefit to come in. If, like Mr. Cecilini said, if we want to talk operational and procedure stuff with them, we could do it at a special meeting in the near future.
That's what I'm saying. So what we want, how we want to approach it.
I would like to kind of go over the special reserve accounts and how much we've used in the plans.
So you would like to meet tomorrow?
Well,
night?
I mean, if we have time to do it
Or we can
tonight.
do some more
Yeah.
tonight. I mean,
Yeah.
that's.
I had only passed that out to you, Tammy, last night because you had made the specific request, but I have copies for everyone, so I'll pass those out.
Okay.
So we're gonna try to do whatever we can tonight, whatever we get through, and we're gonna cancel tomorrow night, and then we'll have our meeting with the Board of Ed before we do any heavy-duty deliberations and then the public hearing.
Right, I mean, we can deliberate, but I don't know if, can we change the school budget and town manager's budget before the public presentation? I think it doesn't have to get presented as it was presented to us before we make any changes.
I think we can recommend to the town manager that we would like to see some changes. That's our purview. We don't have to wait till after the public hearing. If there's an issue that some of us have that are specific, I think sooner than later,
Well,
bring it forward.
we do have to put a legal notice for the public
oh,
hearing and
okay, all right,
advertise
then.
it, so I would think you can deliberate whatever you want, but I would recommend we don't make physical changes to that budget until the budget call is ready to go for town meeting, because those are two separate legal notices that have to get posted
Aha.
so many days in advance.
Okay, all right.
So I believe the 31st, when the Board of Ed comes in, that's like the last cutoff to be able to have enough time advertising, because we'll be getting that into legal notice probably by the end of this week.
So the legal proceedings are determining what, how we go.
Yeah, and I think.
But I mean, you could
That's
still
okay.
deliberate whatever you want, but we just wouldn't physically make changes to the document.
Okay, no, I think we need to know that. That's, so maybe we have to wait until after that timeframe.
Yeah, I think the town manager's proposed budget goes to public hearing. After the public hearing, we then take it, we make motions as a council, issue the town council's proposed budget, and that's the one that goes to town meeting for vote, procedurally speaking, the annual meeting.
So at this point, we're
I
looking
mean,
at,
in years past, we've also asked the town manager to make a list of areas that that could.
but
be
that was
cut.
after the public hearing.
Yeah, but we could ask him ahead of time. Where could you make cuts if we needed to make cuts?
We have a list.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Alright.
I bet you have a list.
There are also, before you jump into that, were also a couple last-minute requests. I just want to mention, the Vision Committee is looking for $5,000 to continue their work into the next fiscal year, and they do intend to ask for a 6-month extension of their work in the charter. That came in as we were printing the budget, so we didn't include it. I did tell them we would try and work it in as we went through the budget deliberations. And then we also got a request for another stair lift at the Housing Authority for $16,000, which would be a capital appropriation. That's something that we can work in as we go through deliberations. But just wanted to make you aware of those two requests that came in at the 11th hour. So they're not reflected in your budget documents.
So the chairlift is Maple Courts, the
Yes.
big building?
Mm-hmm. 16.
16.
I was gonna ask, Dr. Nash for an extended budget. It seems like she passed out last year with all of the line items, cause it seems like the budget that we got this year is missing some items that were on it. But she has an extended budget with all of, more line items. So you can see what their actual budget is.
I can ask for that.
So we can proceed with the special reserves. Tammy, go ahead.
I had asked Jenna, and because I know that we had dipped significantly in, whoops. I know, I pulled an Ed. I know we had dipped substantially into the storm maintenance because of overtime. And I know in the last couple of years, we've nipped and tucked, and those have really been our savings accounts for in case some bad stuff happens. I mean, if the existing balance in storm maintenance is only 107,000, I mean, if we have a hurricane, we have a windstorm, we have a bad nor'easter, I mean, we're not gonna have anything left in storm maintenance. So I just wanted to kind of go over what we have and the plans, because I know there's line items to add to each of them. But I know storm maintenance, there's a leftover.
Yeah, so what we've done in the past for the storm maintenance reserve fund is any balances left in Department 29, which is your storm maintenance operating budget. So we've had several years of nice winters. This year, as Matt alluded to, was really more, even though it felt like a terrible winter, it was really more of a normal winter, which we have not seen. And, you know, we are almost to the end of March, but we still could see some call outs for some treatments and stuff. However, as it sits right now, Department 29, if we didn't have the reserve fund, would be over by about approximately 115,000. I believe it's like 107,000 for salaries, and those related expenses, as well as the meal allowances we have to pay. That's over as well. So included in this 131,000 that you see as an estimated expenditure for 26 does contemplate those overages, assuming we have no more call outs. And there's a few repair bills and expenses that we'll need to take from the reserve because there was some specific repair related to the storms that if we keep them in operating, we'll be over in repair parts. So that's typically how we would fund those types of things. If it's directly related to storm, we would take that out of and it's not budgeted for, we would take it out of the reserve fund.
What Matt was talking about last night, we were talking after the fact that we had the windstorm last week, that there was some overtime and whatnot. So
yeah, so those
given
costs,
we think the winter's over and there's not going to be issues, but windstorms and whatnot can happen any time of the year. So
the other place that we've also looked to transfer to reserve fund is any savings as well. This has happened a couple different ways, but in the past, if we have balances left in the highway accounts, we have used some of those funds to transfer to almost said the consolidated reserve. I meant the capital and non-recurring fund to kind of cover those gaps in our renewal and replacement fund for the equipment. I mean, as we've discussed before, the equipment costs keep rising, and while we have a annual contribution to that fund to keep our fleet,
it's not quite enough.
It's not quite enough. So we've contributed there. So, but we've also taken some of those savings in the highway accounts to put them to reserve. So, you know, there are a couple different ways as we get to year end based on how the budget works. We could transfer some to reserve right now. I'm not projecting that we'll have much to put in. Last year in fiscal year 25, transfers to the storm fund was about $6,035, I believe, and that's reflected in your beginning balance there of the 238. So, out of all this last year, we pretty much used up our reserve because we replenished as much as we could for salt. I mean, in the 29 account.
So because we had mild years, the reserve accounts did okay. We had a normal winter this year, and we ate into the reserve accounts. So
right.
If we have normal winters,
we won't have the reserve account, and our operating budget is not enough to keep up with it those were the cuts we were making in previous years to salt and those types of things. We were taking a chance on what the winter would be like, and we could take it from reserve. As Matt said, we were lucky to have a full salt shed going into this winter. Mm-hmm. This year, he's going to want to replenish that before year end as much as he can, to kind of keep that level funded, but you wouldn't want to keep, cutting from salt knowing that you can take it out of reserve. That we're not there anymore in the current time, I guess is the message.
So basically, pre-ordering our salt reserve is kind of like the savings account for the winter maintenance, almost.
Yeah.
But
we're also contracted to take so much salt per year.
Now, would the material actually be cheaper when we get it now than, let's say, when we?
Sometimes. I think I believe the cost for salt projected in the upcoming budget that we're delivering now. Yeah.
See, but having a salt storage shed, also, we weren't buying salt on the spot market. We had it there, and then also we can pick it up more at our discretion, not waiting for when the barges come in and you have to wait in line, so, when Matt was saying, it wasn't there. In some instances, the salt was not even at the depot, so, so maybe, yeah, we gotta look at, yes, what is the reality? Do we look at this year, maybe, we lucked out in the past, and do we maybe stop replenishing?
Well, we increased the proposed salt budget by $75,000, so hopefully in deliberations that will stay relatively intact, and we'll continue our habit of sweeping money at the end of the year into the storm reserve through action by the Finance Committee and the Town Council when we see what comes back unexpended, and just continue that habit. But if we can build our budget base to the correct amount based on our usage and how much the tonnage of the calcium and the salt is, that's a great place to start.
So that is storm maintenance. The next reserve is the constabulary reserve. Those expenditures for the current year paid for your 9th officer, which was also, that was budgeted for last year to keep it out of the budget and fund it through the constabulary. So those costs are there, plus there's some, when we have a new officer come on, we'll pay for, their whole set of uniforms, anything to get them going and started. So that is what we use the reserve for. There's also been a couple years where in the past, some of the year in '23 where we spent $181,000. That's for some equipment and vehicles, again, to keep that out of the operating budget as the program grows. But that fund itself is pretty, we're not seeing any issues there. The revaluation fund, we've ended the revaluation season with a small deficit. We budgeted $40,000 to put in to the reval fund to replenish our program, which we do. That's been a consistent practice by the town. We had entered into an agreement with NECOG for the regional revaluation program. That invoice that was assessed to us was $43,000. So there is a small deficit. Likely, should we have sufficient funds, we can replenish that through the assessment budget. If there's enough left to absorb the deficit. And then next year, we could keep level funding at $40,000 likely, or we could increase it and fund the difference, because the fee will be $43,000 per year until we hit revaluation again, and then it'll be readdressed. But the $3,600 difference, I can fund from contingency likely. It's not a lot of dollars.
Yeah, but if we don't fund it, we gotta take it from someplace else.
Yeah, we can address it. The funding that's in the budget right now is a $40,000. So we can look at the assessor department will likely have a savings as we end 25, 26. We can likely fund and make up that difference. That's at least what I'm planning on, which is why the request for the reserve transfer is still flat at $40,000. I don't like to increase budgets to increase budgets. The maintenance of dams, that's pretty much to address the dams that we are responsible for in order for annual inspections and any repairs minor repairs that may need to be made based on those inspections. In '25, we had a number of dams that needed inspections. Specifically, I know Elmwood Dam was one of the, as an example, one of the dams that needed an inspection, and we had some mitigation that we needed to address. So we were able to pay for that out of that fund. We also have some dam and bridge work that's in your capital program that we're funding from capital, but also taking a small amount from reserves. So that's all reflected in what you're seeing here. Typically, the town has saved $5,000, has put $5,000 per year to these funds for quite a while now. Really just to recognize that there's a liability, and if there's an issue, the cost could be significant.
Yeah, the cost would be more than 100,000. I mean, it would go, what we're talking about up in East Killing is, yeah. Have we looked at our exposure, if, like the dams that we have we really taken a look at where we are with those? Well, you really can't, I guess we really can't tell.
Well, that's all. We're required to have inspections, and then we also require those. We are required to forward the results of those inspections. They come up every 3 to 5 years, depending on the type of the dam. Those are then also forwarded to our insurance carrier, and there hasn't been any issues that have been addressed.
Okay, so the insurance, okay, there's some people looking, we have some help looking over our shoulder, okay. You know, it's not out of sight, out of mind, there is some involvement there. Okay, all right.
Brian, thank you for taking care of the Rogers Dam built by our friend the Beaver down on State Avenue. That's an aside, it's not part of the budget process, but thank you.
That was not part of the 14,000.
Right, breaking up beaver dams, they're quite expert at that at the 4-H camp, let me tell you.
Actually saw him the other day, the thing's massive, just massive. Scared the hell out of me.
You should see them when they're mad in the water and they start splapping their tail on the water.
Ask Bubba from the Dayville Fire Company.
The next one is the Forest Management Fund. We started exploring a forest management plan last year, specifically to initially address Chase Reservoir. We also contracted with a harvester to have a harvester come in and harvest the ashwood, and that has gone to market, and we've gotten some return on that. So $39,275 of the total revenue that you see there, $10,000 came from general fund contribution, $39,000 came from the money we recovered from the harvester. The related expenses for that pay for the harvester and the consultant that we've engaged with for the forest management plan. There is some work that is ongoing right now this year going into next year to not only address Chase Reservoir, but some of our other open space properties. And those are the expenses that you see in the expenditure history as well. The negotiation of pilot, we make an annual contribution to save up for our agreement that needs to be negotiated for Lake Road Generating. As you know, we have to hire a specialized consultant to be able to evaluate the appraisal on that property, and it's quite expensive. So that's what those, you can see the expenses there in the expense history. Demo and relocation. This fund is used for if we have a couple things. A blighted property that's either due to structure fire or other damage that is unsafe and needs to come down. We can't always wait for the property owner to do that. you know, the Blueville Mill fire, that was one of them. We had to get a long arm reach excavator out there to do that. We've also worked with residents and some banks that own property that were in foreclosure to clean up some blighted properties over the last year. So some of those expenses are related to that. And we do transfer money into that fund as part of the budget every year. So as you can see, that fund is very well utilized. The Info Technology Fund, we make a $50,000 contribution to the Info Tech Reserve every year to fund this page also, this reserve also has a specific page in your budget in the F pages. But we use this fund to keep our computer equipment on standard replacement. If we do a new project or a new initiative, we'll fund some of the initial implementation and software costs through this fund. So the newly designed website, the implementation for that website was paid for out of Info Technology. The annual maintenance fee is paid out of your operating budget, just as an example. We also had a significant project this year that needed to get started last year towards the end of the year and finished in this year. In the fall, we had to replace several computers in order to be compliant with Windows 11. Windows 11 came out with some security changes, and if you weren't on Windows 11 by October 15th of 2025, your computers were no longer going to be supported and have a security risk. So in that process, we had several machines that were identified as not going to be compatible with the Windows 11 that we had to replace. So that was roughly a $60,000 project that came out of the reserve. Some of it was in 25 and some of it is in 26. The other items that are reflected both in 25 and 26 is much of the upgrade in the equipment that you see in this room. We did get some partial funding by grants for those, but it did pay for that, but we did have some matching expenses as well. So that's pretty much the reserves. Does anyone have any questions?
Maybe a comment for technology. We were talking about trying to get room 102 up to speed for interaction.
Yeah, we had asked for $25,000 in the PEGPESHA grant in order to do some of that funding, in order to start some of that project. We were cut from 25 to 10, so we're hoping to go back for that in subsequent rounds of the PEGPESHA grant, only because we took priority with Channel 22. We have ran a whole new line for 22, like patching some of the fiber. I think many of you who might have seen 22 recently, hopefully you've seen it. The quality is much better on 22, both for audio and sound. The strides we've been trying to make for several years. So the equipment in the booth is also upgraded in order to be able to accommodate that. So those things were done first. We were hoping to get more money from PEGPESHA to start with room 102, but that'll be a future project as well.
Because sometimes we got there's multiple meetings, and it was a lot. I'm seeing requests, quite a few in the last 3 or 4 weeks. A lot of comments from people talking about why is the sewer plant, the sewer meetings always down there? They're not up here, but sometimes when we're having meetings here, well, we're interfering with the Board of Education, but they're now over in on Westfield Avenue.
We had sewer meetings here during COVID. Post-COVID, they chose to have their meetings back at the plant.
Right.
The plant's not currently set up
No,
to do
not
that. That would be just a choice of scheduling and preference.
But I mean, just some
We would also then
incremental public questioning that, especially with the moratorium and whatnot, I'm starting to get, not a big overabundance of people talking about it, but there are a few comments where,
The other thing you have to factor, though, every meeting you run live, whether it's in 102 or here in this room, you have to have someone to run the booth, staff that, and that will have an additional cost, whether it's a staff member who gets paid overtime or we also
well, we have to
an
look at
outside.
that. I mean,
yes.
that's, well,
Just
you
got
know,
one more special reserve question. For the demo and relocation, do the monies the town receives from reimbursement from the landowners go back right into that, or does that go
Yes,
into another
we
part
would
of the
do
fund?
that. We would, any recoveries we get, which have been few.
I was one of them.
Or take, yes, or take a little longer to come. A lot of times you don't see that in the year that it happens, of
Yeah,
course.
you lead them, of course.
But yes, we do deposit those back
Goes
into
right-
the
okay,
fund.
awesome,
Mhm.
thanks.
any other comments?
Just want to thank Jen for appeasing my question, because our special reserves are what really have saved our butts in the last few years, so, and we found out real fast this winter that, you know, if it wasn't for
Right,
them.
oh, no, it was good that we had them, right. So it's nice to have that, we don't worry about it, but again, are our winters gonna be, or the issues?
It appeases my Girl Scout, be prepared.
Well, we
Motion
don't
to
have
adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to adjourn,
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
So tomorrow's not happening.